Welcome back, everybody, to Game Over Cancer in support of the Canadian Cancer Society. Up next, we have a Vengeful Guardian Moonrider New Game Plus speedrun brought to you by DanTheVP. Dan, take it away.
All right, welcome on in, everybody. We've got a couple more runs left for the entire event. It's been a fantastic week. Always good to have something on at any point in time, especially the runs this week for Game Over Cancer. So this is Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. It's a new kind of indie 2D action platformer that's come out recently. Just shout out to Joy Masher, who's the dev behind this game. You might know them from games such as Blazing Chrome, also published by the Arcade Crew, who recently gave us Infernax, which is a personal favorite of mine. So I just want to make sure to shout out the folks not only making the games, but also making these games possible, because it's a huge effort to like port them and get them released in all different languages and stuff. So shout out to the indie publishers as well. And as you can see, I am playing in traditional Chinese. It saves probably 2 or 3 minutes throughout the run, so I will do my best to let you all know what's happening. We're going to start on a 100% save file because this is New Game Plus. It has absolutely everything unlocked. And time will start when we start the first stage, but before that happens, we just kind of explain things, because once the run starts, it's going to be harder for me to actually play and explain everything. So we've got kind of a Mega Man style overworld. We're going to start with this stage, which is the mandated starting stage for an 80% run. We could technically go anywhere right now, but this run is going to start and end on the same levels as an 80% run, just for consistency's sake, and so it makes sense as a speed run. So we're going to get onto the loading screen here. So this game has a couple of different systems. One is that we're going to get boss weapons from every stage after the first, kind of like Mega Man. There are no boss weaknesses. We already have all of those right now. But on top of that, we have these items, which are chips that we've collected in the previous run. And so now we have access to all of them. We're only going to be using 2 chips for the entire run. One of those chips is going to just be constantly feeding me a small amount of MP. And that is going to be what I'm going to use to activate all the boss weapons that I've already collected. The other chip is going to give me MP back every time I kill an enemy, and you'll see kind of a visual representation of that in some like purple and black balls you'll see flying around the screen. So with that being said, we're going to jump on into the Biolab stage, and time is going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, I absolutely love the way this run starts, because we get a little preview movie of all of Moonrider's moves. I'm not playing yet. We're going to see his dive kick. He can crouch and attack. He's got a power attack. He can destroy enemy projectiles. And now that I've got control, we're going to go ahead and use our weapon wheel and swap over to this, which is the Photon Dash. And as you can tell, it is mighty quick. I love New Game Plus because you don't have to suffer any of the beginning of this game. Which I say suffer, I'm being dramatic. This game starts off incredibly fast because I can run. All I have to do is hold R2. I'm playing with a PS4 controller at the moment, but all I have to do is hold R2 and I'm in this running state constantly, and this game is fast. You don't really have to unlock any of the movement abilities outside of the boss weapons that give you extra movement. So running, wall jumping, all of the different, there's not a slide, but that would kind of fit in as well. But even in the 80% run, or just playing this game casually, you are incredibly fast, or as fast as you want to be. But we're using this Photon Dash to kind of destroy enemies. And you'll also notice that it's giving me some iframes, which might be hard to see in the stream capture, but the Photon Dash, besides being fast and also doing damage, it has really generous iframes, and we're going to utilize that quite a bit. This is the Bio Queen. I'm going to try to not destroy her hands, so maybe we can get this one cycle. There was a speedrun competition for the demo of this game that ended with this boss, so it's been pretty highly optimized since the very beginning of this game's run. And that's the first stage. We're done. We're out under 2 minutes. And now the overworld opens up. I am going to do things in a specific order, mostly just because very small optimizations, such as what sub-weapon do I end a level with, and is that the sub-weapon I want to start the next level with? But it's very minor in the New Game Plus run. But this is the city. I like doing this first because it gives me a little bit of a break at the beginning of the run, especially in a marathon setting. It's nice to just have this section. While it's not completely an auto-scroller, these sections of this road are kind of gated by how quickly you destroy enemies. So if I'm not killing everything as quickly as possible, it will take longer, but we are kind of capped on how fast we can go. So it's a nice little pseudo auto-scroller break after the biolab, and so I can kind of catch up and maybe explain a few things that I've missed. So the top left of the screen, you'll see the yellow bar is my health. The blue bar is my MP. You see those two chips symbolized up there as well. And then the O3 is just a life counter, which hopefully that won't come into play for this run. But you'll notice the blue bar representing my MP is slowly ticking up. We have that MP regen chip that is active even during these kind of Mode 7-esque road scenes, which there will be one more after this one at the end of the run. We also have a sub-weapon, special weapon on the bike, which are these pink shots I'm about to shoot, and they do eat up my MP. I have 4 shots per full MP, and they're very useful in taking down these mini-bosses. We have that mid-boss there, and we'll have another mini-boss ending this section. So I'm not really going to be using my secondary shot at all other than on those mini-bosses. And it's important to note out to point out that the secondary shot it's kind of like a wave beam that doesn't shoot straight. It kind of goes back and forth. I don't know how to explain it. I can't think of the correct terminology. All I can think of is the Helix gun in Enter the Gungeon. It's like that. So it's really easy to miss small targets. So even if we could use it, it would be very difficult to use. But we've got one more mini boss coming up, and then there will be a proper stage for the second half of this city level. This is what I call the train level, and you've probably noticed by now this is kind of a Genesis era game stylistically with the graphics. It draws on so many different inspirations. I feel like I've said Mega Man already 10 times in the first 5 minutes of this run, but I feel like any 2D action platformer like this has got to have two things. And one of those things is a train level, and the other is an elevator section. And if you disagree with me, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Those are just, I don't know who decided that in video game lore, but we've got the train level here, which is trucks and cars, but it's functionally a train. We're gonna have a couple mid-bosses here. I'm purposefully being a little shy about using too much of my MP because of this section right here. That those car gaps can be big enough that you can't jump across them. So always being able to dash that entire section is really important. We'll see round 2 with the robot in the box that we fought previously. Again, I'm going to save a little bit of my MP here just to make sure I have it for the next section, and also use it for those iframes. We'll get quite a bit back here from both of these robot halves. If I jump at the right time... No, I missed it. Never mind. Forget I said anything. I will be using the iframes quite a bit here to hopefully dodge through these barriers as they come. Nope, missed both of them. Oh well. But I did go too fast, or fast enough that I just completely didn't spawn one. We have our first proper boss. We've kind of got enemies like ourselves that we're fighting. And this boss is going to die quickly, and then I'll explain to you what happened after it's dead. And there we go. So to not get into the lore too much, all of the main stage bosses are going to be mechanical, cyber, ninja-esque enemies like ourselves. And using the photon dash, which is the only really ability you've seen me use, we're going to absolutely punish these bosses. This is one of my favorite parts of the game, is the boss fights. We're jumping into the Lost Ruins here, but the way that the photon dash works is basically any frame that the dash is active and we're overlapping hitboxes with an enemy, whoop, don't fall all the way. So we can one wall climb. Definitely didn't intend to do it there, but backup strats. This could hard lock the game. It didn't. Good. But anytime we can overlap hitboxes with a boss, we're going to do a lot of damage with the photon dash. And since we can pin bosses in corners every now and then, might pause that thought. Oh, okay, that spawns right. Nope. Okay, that's okay. There's a skip right there that we just missed out on, but that drone behaved. So anyway, we're going to manipulate a lot of the main bosses into a corner or against a wall, because the photon dash is really intended to take you quickly from place to place. So if we're pinned against a wall, and you're going to see it right here on this mini boss when we get to its second phase, we're overlapping hitboxes for the entire duration of this. And so it just absolutely demolishes enemies. It's way more damage than anything else in this game in the amount of time that we have. So you can look forward to that on most bosses, except actually this one we're about to fight. But going to make our way through this little maze, which conveniently I know the route through. Also going to be dive kicking a little bit here, just small optimizations in movement. And kind of our first turn in the water, which water physics kind of follow that Mega Man formula. You'll also see me ducking to hit some of these switches. I have what I call a power attack. It's kind of a dash attack, but then like the photon dash is also a dash attack, so it gets confusing. So I call it a power attack, and it looks like that. I don't really want a power attack very much because there is lag at the end of it. It does more damage than basic attacks for the amount of time it takes. But if I just need to do one hit like on those switches, I'll duck an attack. So I don't accidentally do a power attack, which is run a direction and attack. So this boss has got a shield we need to destroy. I need to get a couple of hits here, and then we're going to use the iframes on the photon dash mainly to hopefully not take any damage. Phase 1 done. We might can sneak in a little hit here. The timing is tight. We got a hit there. That means we get the fast cycle on the end. Another 2 there, and this boss is done. That's more of a traditional boss strat, actually having to engage with the enemy. We're not going to see very many more of those. And that is Lost Ruins. Done. Hopefully under 4 minutes. Well under 4 minutes. I think we're going to get S rank on most of these levels. Actually, I think I know we're going to get S rank, because I've already collected all the items, and that's part of the ranking. We're going into the Fallen City now, and we're finally going to get to see another boss ability, the Geo Crash, and just A little bit of a photosensitivity warning. Now that I'm swapping back and forth between weapons, the screen will kind of flash off and on. So I use L1 to bring up the weapon wheel. And the way the weapon wheel functions in this game is if I'm holding a direction and I press L1, it only moves, I press and hold L1, it only moves weapons once, which is a really nice feature. Like, you're not just like scrolling through the weapon wheel endlessly as you try to move and open the weapon wheel. But it also means I can just like I can kind of mash L1, and for every time I press L1, it's going to move one weapon wheel slot left or right. And that's how I'm going to maneuver through the weapon wheel for most of this game. So if you see that was a super fast kill, by the way. If you see that flash, that's what I'm doing. And I'm mainly going to be going between this Geo Crash and 1, 2, 3 over back to the Photon Dash. The Photon Dash works really well to destroy these rocks. I have to be exactly next to the rocks before I start the dash, and it's just enough damage to destroy them in one Photon Dash. This might not sound like a lot, but this is like a big part of routing this level, because it's very slow to kill these rocks in any other means. I'm gonna have to do this one because I'm out of MP, but it's a big part of getting through this section fast is hitting all of the other rock kills. And we're on to another mini boss here. I need to farm up some more MP. Back to the Geo Crash, and here we go, robot fight number 2. I want this to only take 3, so I'm going to hit it a couple more times extra. That Geo Crash has a hitbox on the way down, and then it has projectiles, which is why it's doing so much damage. And it also gives me pretty good iframes, which is what makes it pretty powerful. And yes, this is kind of a Metroid escape in the middle of the game. Don't ask me. It's cool and fun to play, at least. A couple of wall jumps, and you can very easily fall into fire if you're not fast enough. Feather our way back to the Photon Dash, and we're going to make our way to the boss here. There's a really cool strat for this boss. Normally, whenever you walk into a boss room, you're locked into like the start of the room. But if I get this really tight window and I get a wall jump right here, I missed it. Never mind. You can get a wall jump right there and end up in the middle of the room and set up the quickest kill possible on this fight. But we've just got the slow kill here, which is still pretty fast, and Flamewalker's dead. Again, manipulating his AI so he kind of sticks on to the right side of the wall for the beginning of the fight. Most of these bosses do have 2 phases, which is why I wasn't able to get a 1-cycle kill there. If you don't do enough damage quick enough, the boss transitions to the second phase, and during that transition, they can't take any damage. All right, kind of midpoint for the main stages of the game. We're on to Ashura's fleet. The beginning of this level is fantastic. It's just platforming non-stop. We're going to see if I can make it through a couple of tight cycles here, and I failed the easiest jump. But the Photon Dash is going to come in real handy here with the iframes. And now we're up to this section. There's a pretty big skip, an entire mini boss we're not going to fight. I am playing on the release version of this game. They've recently updated the game and actually taken out this skip. So thank you, offline mode for Steam. If I can make it through these cycles just quick enough. All right. We're in a good spot here. Need to get up here, and there's the mini boss. Nope, we just skipped it. One of the biggest skips in the game, and okay, that's fine. I wasn't sure where it was going to respawn me there, but this is fine. Yeah, that's one of the biggest skips in the game, and you never see it because you don't hit that trigger. But we're going to make our way to a little mid-boss section, and then the rest of this level is kind of an auto-scroller. We do get to see our third boss weapon, which is the Dark Portal. The Dark Portal is extremely strong on stationary enemies. Oh, come on. I didn't get up quick enough. Because it just piles on the damage. Spawn us. Yeah, that's the attack I want. But it starts doing damage as soon as the portal opens and doesn't stop until it fully closes. And now we're into a little mini auto-scroller section. Need to get back to the Photon Dash. And this is going to be a very good example of how critical the Photon Dash is to this run. It's the first boss weapon we get in the 80% category. It comes from the city, which is the first stage I did. So the difference between New Game Plus and New Game isn't huge, because after like the first 3 or 4 levels, the 80% run has all of the same tools that the New Game Plus run uses for the majority of the run. I mean, New Game Plus is a couple minutes faster. The biggest thing is that every time you get a boss weapon, there's an unskippable cutscene, and since we already have all those weapons, we don't get any of the cutscenes. There's a mash strat here. See if we get it. And there we go. Photon Dash against the wall. I don't know what this thing is, but it never stood a chance. My favorite part in the game, I just love that long kick. I don't know. It's the little things in life, you know? And now we're on to an actual real auto-scroller. So if anybody has any, you know, you want to get that cool t-shirt, you want to win some games, or just want to contribute to a great cause, now is a great time to bring in some donations.
Yeah, and I got one here.
Yeah,
real quick. $50 from the Rotbot. Thank you so much for that $50 donation. Reminder, everyone, we are raising money for the Canadian Cancer Society. And just like Dan said, for a $5 donation, you can get one of 2 Steam keys for the... Oh, I just had it. The Mega Man... I don't know Mega Man games. It's a Mega Man game. Or Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. That's a game I do know. And then a $10 donation can get you both of those Steam keys, as well as some GOC merch, a shirt and a tumbler. So make sure you guys get your donations in. We got what, about another 20 minutes of this run, right?
I haven't been keeping track. That sounds about right.
Yeah, we'll go with that. You got about 20 minutes left of this run, and then one more after that to get those donations in so you can be eligible for those prizes. And, you know, just getting us even closer to that $5,000 goal.
Nice shout out to the Rodbot. I appreciate that donation. It's always good to see familiar names supporting. I've really enjoyed seeing, you know, this event constantly raising money for a good cause, and, you know, raising a little bit more each time as people can afford to give. We're on to this stage's boss now. This is probably the most prominent AI manip, and you'll immediately see it if she turns around and faces the right wall, kind of like a dingus. It doesn't make sense, but if she does, we got it. There we go. So now I just wait, and she didn't stand a chance. Well, she stood more of a chance than she normally does. There we go. This boss actually is like our friend, but I've mostly played this game in Chinese, so the lore is kind of lost on me at this point. All right, so we have 2 more of the main overworld stages. They're the 2 hardest stages, and I just inexplicably leave them for the end. This is the Laser Factory. Some of the previous levels we've had like maybe 1 or 2 mini bosses. This one's got like 17, it feels like. But it's challenging, it's fun. We get to see a lot of movement out of this Photon Dash, as well as some other abilities that I might remember to use. And you really get to see the combo of the damage and the iframes in this Photon Dash, kind of like in sections like this, where I'm trying to take out These skull cars are the worst. Everybody hates them. All my friends hate the skull cars. They just have like a huge damage pool, and their attack pattern is annoying. I'm going to take a little safety here and kill these enemies following me just to get a little bit of MP back. Make sure I can take out this skull car. I need to save my MP because there's like 2 mini bosses. And then after these mini bosses, I heard you like a mini boss in your mini boss. So we gave you a mid boss after your mini boss. This is another enemy that's like our friend again. I don't read Chinese, so your guess is as good as mine. We are going to use the iframes here to stack some damage and just dash away his entire health. The next section is a pretty long sequence of platforming. It's important to point out that whenever we get these big transitions after like mid bosses and mini bosses, we get full health and MP. A lot of the strats around, okay, what are we using? When are we using certain secondary abilities? How much are we using them? Is kind of built around these free refills of both health and MP. And if you thought we hadn't already fought enough mini bosses or mid bosses, we're going to get another mid boss. Swapping back to the dark portal here. This boss is going to drop some weak points that we have to jump and attack. So if I can position the dark portal right on top, we can stack some damage. And I completely missed it there. I also need to watch out for my health. Well, luckily we spawn in right here, and I have plenty of extra lives. Also, I feel like everybody found that you can, that's an elevator right there that you can just jump through. I love seeing people find out that you can jump through that on their first playthrough. Well, maybe I'll land a dark portal or two. There we go, dark portal. Come on, that was right on it. There we go. All right, back to the photon dash. Another pretty intense sequence here. I can afford to take some damage. That's kind of... Hold on. Don't die? Okay. Being really risky here, but... There's a little bit of tech that I've just kind of avoided mentioning because I just have already been talking a lot, that you've seen a couple of times now where I get really big jumps off of enemies. So you can attack down with a kick or at an angle with a kick like that by just holding down and a direction and attacking. And if you do that to an enemy, you bounce off the enemy. But then if you do that to an enemy and you hold jump through the entirety of the attack, you get a very big bounce. And so that enables several bits of platforming. I don't know if that's exactly intended, but it's a lot of fun and it's nice to be able to jump that high, especially off the enemies. Another AI manip here. We're going to take an intentional point of damage and hopefully not have to fight this boss in phase 2. I'm going to take a hit. And then while I'm in the air, there we go. One of the easiest bosses for one of the hardest stages. I'll take it. Now, and I said it earlier in the run. One of the reasons I love this game and I love this run is the boss fights. And it might be easy to look at this game and think about that and be like, oh, the bosses, like, they're just a pushover. They're, you know, of course you like them. They're easy, which they're not. They take a lot of practice to get the positioning, but to some extent they are easy. And I love the platforming in this game. I love how fast I can go, how much I can jump, all the different boss abilities I get to use. And so often I find myself disliking games like this because bosses are like unnecessarily difficult, and I feel like it's like and I've just like endlessly compared this game to Mega Man, but like fighting the Robot Masters is such a different, here's a skip here. It's such a different part of the game than all of the platforming. And so I really enjoy that there's not a hugely difficult aspect of this run in all of the boss fights. None of them are RNG to a point that they are a gate for the speed run. We've been able to optimize the levels quite a bit, and so it's just practice. You can kind of do the bosses the same every time. And it really makes for a good run, in my opinion. I don't think there's a boss run. I am running on the original version of this game. I don't think they added one in the last update. Alright, I need to save some MP here. There's a really cool trick coming up if I can get this jump off of this enemy. And I didn't. Alright, we're going to just, for the sake of showing this off, we're going to wait for this other enemy to get over here. There we go. He's supposed to raise the water here, but instead we're just going to use that clever little jump and not have to swim in the water at all for that section. And now it's back to how it normally would be. I need to have a lot of MP coming up for this next section, so I'm going to go ahead and farm a little bit. Back over to the Geo Crash. I'm going to do a combination of Geo Crash and power attacks on this mid-boss. And the Geo Crash having two hitboxes, one on kind of the fist strike going down and the other on the explosion when you hit the ground, really does a lot to... It's not competitive with Photon Dash for overall damage, but it still does quite a bit of damage. And we've got quite a bit of this section that I'm going to skip because I can single wall climb. This is the single wall climb is a very easy trick. You're just like holding down in a direction while wall jumping, and because you're holding down in a direction, it cancels your jump, which lets you pull off that single wall climb. So. The boss for this stage. I think I'm going to go over and use the Geo Crash on this boss. It's a little bit safer strat. I'm going to get 2 hits with the sword and then 2 Geo Crashes. Should one cycle it. But I have to land on these red raft platforms or I don't get the crash. And you can kind of move in the air with the Geo Crash, which helps. Oh, just one short. Okay. And the Geo Crash having iframes lets you just like fall through all of his projectiles. It's the water temple with less keys you accidentally forget to get. All right, that's all the main stages. We have 2 levels left. There's another road section, and then there's the final level leading up to the boss. So this is the space elevator. We're going to jump on in, and this is the actually difficult road section. So the way this section of the road works is it's going to transition between this purple section to a green section to a red section back to a purple section. And all of those sections are gated by how quickly you get through enemies, including this truck. And this truck is hard to hit. And I just got it the first time, all 3 times. Let's go. That's the fastest you can transition to green there. When you're in a turn, the game throws you in one direction, like it throws you to the outside of the turn, so you're constantly having to correct with the D-pad to stay in line. So trying to shoot something directly in front of you with that special attack, which like swerves back and forth, it's very easy. It's like a smaller hitbox to hit with that secondary weapon than it is the primary weapon. even though this looks like such a smaller area. But I have to get through these trucks as quickly as possible. All right, well, on to the red section. There's another mini boss on this section that they've actually nerfed in the update that I'm not playing on. But it's still relatively, I mean, it's free as long as I know to save my sub-weapons. So not even going to worry about getting that health. I want to kill this enemy before we get into the turn, and it's dead. That's another enemy that if you try to shoot it with your normal attacks, it blocks you, and trying to hit that in a turn is incredibly difficult. So coming up, we've got another section of enemies, and then we're going to have our first encounter with the final boss. I am embarrassed how long it took me to realize that the boss at the end of this stage is the final boss on a motorcycle. I'm going to pick up some health here. Health isn't really an issue as long as we're full. And when this boss spawns in, you'll really be able to see what I mean. That it's hard to hit a moving target. We need to get a secondary shot on him immediately, so the MP regen will start regenning us up, because I need 5 shots to kill it. I can wait until he stops moving to shoot the next 3. And as soon as I get this 5th shot off, it's possible to do it before the 5th shot, but it's pretty difficult to line everything up. And there's the 5th shot. And now he just gets to speed away. I guess we did enough damage that he got scared or something. And now we get to go to the actual elevator. I told you there has to be a train level and an elevator level, and this satisfies the elevator level. Need to get back to the photon dash here. This is a pretty easy section. The hardest thing for me is not zoning out and forgetting where I need to be. The enemies always spawn in the same patterns, and there are some enemies with shields that I have to kill with the photon dash, and then there's some enemies that I want to kill with this power attack. But the shield enemies I can't attack with that power attack. So if I were to use the photon dash the entire time, I would run myself out of MP, and I really want to be at full MP for the boss of this stage. You're going to see me doing a lot of photon dashing into power attacking. The power attacking there's a pretty neat tech behind it, because if you're holding the button combination, which again is R2 for run, left or right, and attack, if you just hold them, you do it on the first frame possible. So on these sequences, I'm dashing through, and then after I press dash, I start holding the buttons for the power attack. So I'm getting first frame power attacks. And you can see that just comboing them one after another. You can kind of visualize the lag there based on how long it takes me to do one power attack after another. Couple more sequences of enemies. I haven't been worrying about knocking down the boxes that come up. It doesn't speed the elevator up at all, and I will get one right here to fill up on my life. And in honor of the game being patched and geocrash not being viable on this boss anymore, I'm going to use the photon dash. It also saves me from having to swap back and forth, which saves a little bit of time, but ideally I want to get another boss down here, which we did not, but that's okay. One left, no big deal. There we go, and we have one stage left. It's going to be a stage, a mini boss, and then the final boss immediately after it. This is one of the hardest stages in the game because it's just platforming from the start. all the way to the end. It's got a really tight MP budget, which it's not going to seem tight if I get everything, but it's really easy to lose your way and not, if you're not killing enemies, you're not getting that regen from the Soul Eater chip that we're using. And it's easy to kind of fall in a damaged loop, as you'll see with some of these. We've got like lasers on a pattern, so. I need to get this box specifically, and then I need all of these enemies to be feeding my Soul Eater. Oh, almost through deathless, or hitless, that's fine. Oh, up! Got it, let's go. It's a really tough strat to get through. And these snipers can also be, these wall jumps are so far apart. And right on through to the mini boss, and we're almost there. All right. And it is our samurai friend again. And luckily, the same strategy we used the first time also works on him this time. So he didn't learn much. So we've got one more fight. This is Sunseeker. We are Sunseeker, Sunseeker, I think. We're Moonrider. They're Sunseeker. I will call time. It'll be when the screen flashes white, probably in like 30 seconds, just a heads up. I need to position very carefully to hit him in mid-jump here. Yeah, I got the jump. All right. And then I should get him to jump back and forth here through his second phase. Right, that's good. On to the third phase. Need to bait him over here so I can get a double hitbox with the Geo Crash once, twice, 3 times, and time is now. Time. I just pressed time on my own splits and actually started them. All right, so that is Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. There's a long cutscene afterwards that nobody can read, but we overthrow a government. It's kind of cool. There's like a pretty deep story behind this as well. What's the time I got there, Jal?
Stream shows 38 minutes and 54 seconds.
Yo, nice. Hoping for a nice
Very
solid
nice
under 40 run. Yeah, I appreciate everybody hanging out. We're almost to 5,000. I feel like that would be, we've got a nice Monster Hunter run coming up, so if we can push to 5,000. Shout out to Strizer and everybody behind the scenes. Thanks for having me back again. This has become like my show off my new favorite indie game marathon, and it's been a lot to be able to take a part in it over these last couple of years. I'm Dan. Thanks for hanging out, and enjoy the rest of the marathon.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for showing off Vengeful Guardian Moonrider. That was an amazing run to watch, and I absolutely love the aesthetic of that game, to be honest. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back. We're going to be starting at the last run of the marathon, and I'm not biased at all when I say this is going to be a fun one. But up next is Monster Hunter World Xeno% by Greenspeed. We'll be back here shortly. Don't go anywhere.